Hello, this is Robbie Hanna Anderman with the Healing Trees Forest School. Next episode here on a beautiful May morning. Okay, May afternoon. My apologies. This is, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to get an overview of what's happening now and what the challenges are of identification and looking at trees that are sort of similar and are at a certain stage of just starting to open up. And what I'm looking at mostly is how this one here is a gray bark, that one there is a gray bark, that bigger one over here is a gray bark, and even this one here is sort of a gray bark. So you'd have to identify the difference in the gray barks, which can be kind of tricky. That's sort of when we start looking at the buds, because especially now they're opening and being very distinct. What I have in my hand is, you can see it's like a trident, but it's also two here and two there, and here the branches are coming apart, two here and two there. This tells us that pretty much we're looking at a maple. In this case, we're looking at a sugar maple, also called hard maple. And it has sort of a long, well, a bit of red to it, but not much red, and more brown to it, as contrasted to, say, if we look up there, we're looking at which also, there's the gray bark down on the tree here, but those are red buds coming up open, and those are red flowers on the red maple tree, also called soft maple. So coming back down here, we're looking at this again. This is the sugar maple, hard maple, but okay, whoops, this one is, sorry. And you can see again that there's opposite buds which become opposite branches. And there were two opposites there, there's two opposites there. How it contrasted to here, where you can see this is alternating, one here, one here, one there, and it's not opposites at all. And the buds are actually long and thin, and when you get into them, they're very papery. It really takes a bit of work to get to the green inside, which will be your new growth and your new leaves. But the other quality that we're looking and able to see, especially on young ones, you see the white leaves still on there. This is last year's green leaves that have been what are called marcescent. They're still on the tree, and they will get pushed off when the leaves open for this year. But all winter long, they're hanging there, and it's one way to easily identify it. This is a beech tree, American beech, and a wonderful tree. There's so much to say about beech, but we're not going to do that today. We're just going for identification. Now, right over here, and this is that fatter tree here, the larger one, which is a fast-growing basswood tree, and its buds, and you can see, are more round and very short but stocky, and they're very mucilaginous when you chew on them, and they're very good for chewing on. It's been noted people have come and harvested the buds when they're in a situation of famine and hungry, and these are very satisfying and filling. Especially the mucilaginous aspect is fun to chew on, and also very settling to the stomach. Now we're going to move over to this gray bark here, which again is distinct. Not very distinct in the sense of, but again we see that they're not opposite branches or leaves or buds opening. These are opening, but this is a willow. Now, being as there are hundreds of willows in North America, we're just going to call this a willow. And again, it has the salicin in the bark, which has been long used as an analgesic, pain reliever, and you can also get that from the leaves when they open. Now we're going to go over, well, we're going to also note here that we have, since they're right here, this is balsam fir, And you can notice how the leaves are flat, totally flat. I can rub my fingers back up and down, and if I picked a needle, it would sit in my finger and no way I could roll it. So what we're going to do now briefly is walk over yonder to a spruce tree just to see the difference of how the needles are. And we're going to leave these here, which are, because here we are. Okay, we're coming over here. This here is a spruce, and it has a rougher bark, has needles on the bark, but it also has a needle. Please let me have one. Here we go. And what I can do is roll it in my fingers because it's four-sided, sort of almost diamond shaped, but it rolls. It's not flat at all. And if you grab it, you'll find it's kind of prickly as compared to the rounded tip of the balsam fir. And they're starting to put out open their own buds up here on top. There's a little bud. That's going to be new growth, and the new growth is very yummy and full of vitamin C and sort of a lemony taste. Okay, I'd like to go back over to the red maple, the soft maple. Oh, let's stop here. Right here we have a young red oak tree. Now again, you can see how that's close to being opposite, but it's not opposite. They're alternating, and all the buds are alternating on it. And it's sort of, to me, it has sort of a greenish gray bark. And it also feels very tight, and it's certainly a very hard wood compared to all the others, especially to the basswood, which is a very soft wood. So I was hoping to walk now around and we're looking up and we're looking at the red maple, and I wanted to show you now the red maple having flowers, which is when the flowers start opening in the spring. Anyone who's tapping for maple syrup usually notes that they start to get what's called buddy, and there's a bud taste that comes into the red maple sap, and that's when people start pulling the taps out. And whereas the flowers here are what actually do open eventually. And there's something about a red maple, it's sort of got red most everywhere in it. The leaves have a bit of red, the buds have red, the flowers have red. And it's, you can actually break it off and, eat some of it, and it tastes fine. Nothing negative about the taste of this flower. And while we're here looking at this again, here you can see this is a sugar maple as compared to the red maple we were looking at. You can see how it's more brown, and though there is a little red in there, it's and again the buds are opposite. And here you can see the twigs are opposite. Again, the buds are opposite, but there's more brown rather than the red that's in the red maple. Here we have another opposite, but you notice the curve here, which is not at all in the maple. They're pretty much straight, and there's a curve here, and if you look up there, you'll notice many of the branches have a curve to them, almost like a candelabra. And this actually is a white ash tree, and the buds are quite distinct. See how they're sort of hidden underneath the buds are under the leaf scar where the leaves came off last year. That's the scar. And again, the leaf scar and the buds coming out, and then this is the new bud that will be the new branch coming out from there, similar to this branch here coming out. And the leaves here actually are compound leaves. There's one stem, and there's at least 6 or 8, and then one at the end. Leaves. Anybody else here? Well, there's another oak. And we were talking about basswood. That's what a big basswood tree looks like. It's really got a roundedness to it and growing up. And it likes to grow with, not coppice, but it likes to go in a clump of many, the big one and then the small ones come. And it's quite a lovely tree in that sense. And it keeps, propagating itself by putting out new growth. Anybody else here of interest? We're able to see lots of birch. Up there on top above the spruce, there's the top of trembling aspen opening its leaves. And there's another basswood over there. And I guess what I was hoping to see is a young birch, but maybe we'll have to look further afield for the young birch. So, should we take a break and find the young birch? So here we found a nice young birch, and what I'd like to show you is the difference here. More commonly, we're used to seeing white birch looking like so, with its nice bark and some peeling off a little bit that will flake off, and which becomes a heavy bark that one can make birch bark canoes out of. But this is now mature enough to have a white bark, whereas the previous step is this one here, which is like it looks like more like a cherry bark. And it's got red, it's moving toward the white, which isn't even on the bottom. You can see hints of it down here. And then we go further over here, and this actually is also white birch in its younger stage, and it looks a whole lot more like a cherry or an alder, but by coming out of the same root clump as this one here especially, and then being right by this one, it lets us know, yes, this is a white birch. And here we have the buds in the springtime, and what we were able to do with those is to actually say, may I please, I'm a little hungry here and I've been making this video and I just would like a small taste. And it's a little bit sticky, but not hardly at all. And a fine mellow taste. And this is birch, and we're in spring, we're in May, and you can hear in the background now the peepers. That's in the lowlands over yonder. And they're peeping away. These are little frogs, and this is their courting song. And they're calling to their mates, and they'll find each other, because they seem to be coming back every year now, the last 50 years, and I'm sure it's been going on for centuries before that. Oh, we've moved over to a big birch, an older one that's been here for many years, and it's mature, sexually mature, and what it's doing now is putting out its male flowers, which are called catkins in this case, and you can see here they used to be dark brown, and now the dark brown is opened up a bit as they've elongated so that they have the yellow showing, and the yellow is pollen, which is a great nutritious food, very high in proteins, all the amino acids we need, many vitamins and minerals. And when they elongate further, the honeybees and all the other bees will be coming to them for food, to feed their brood, their babies in their hives. And this is an instance of what it looks like when it's smaller, and we're blessed today to be able to show you what it looks like when they start elongating. See how this one's gone? It's got a bit more green to it as well as the yellow. And then up here you can see this one now is even longer. And you can see also, please note here, there's this is the leaves that are about to open, but they do their sexual production before they bother with the leaves, which is unlike many and most. We can also look over this way here, and you can see how there's more that are open, especially like right here. They've become much more open. And what I've been doing is just at this stage, or even when they're smaller, more like this stage, or even the ones I showed you first, I then collect a whole bunch and dry them for food for next winter, because again they have the pollen. So instead of gathering pollen from the bees, I gather from their source, and I use it as a protein source and also as a way of getting the wind-borne pollens. That these will be now elongating further, more like that one here, and they'll even come down a lot further, and then all of a sudden they'll open up and all this pollen will be in the air for everyone to breathe and to land on things and turn them yellow, as many trees do. And but by taking them in, eating them, I'm able to get my body used to it. It's gone in through my mouth and digestion system, but my body, when it's in the air, goes, oh, yeah, that's familiar. I don't have to overreact and get the histamines rolling, so I don't need antihistamines like I did when I was, I was taking allergy shots and pills from age 7 to 20. And I gave that up, something like 50 years ago, and haven't really much needed them, especially since I've been getting into these wonderful male flowers and all their pollen. A beautiful tree. And you look up, you can see the sun radiating and shining its light on all these yellow flowers, which are quite beautiful and amazing. And just another instance here we have up in the main stem. If we look up here where there's a small branch coming out of this crotch up there, you can see bits of straw sticking out, and that's where a robin has made her nest and his nest. They work together. And as we headed over here to visit this tree, Robin came out and started singing to us like, over here, over here. Don't pay attention to where I came from. Look at where I'm going, because it doesn't want us to really know what's there. But we've got our eyes open. We're keeping the lookout, and we're certainly not gonna bother the robin's nest. They do lots of good work and sing beautiful songs, and we love to have them living here. Well, thank you for joining us here in the Wilno Hills with the Healing Trees Forest School. Yours truly, Robbie.